games, badges, AR, VR, microlearning, TikTok. We are all looking for ways to engage our employees, engage our audiences, and get them to engage with our training. At Anchor Training, we came up with 3 key pillars that you need in all of your learning content to keep your employees engaged next time they take your training. So keep on watching to learn more what those 3 pillars are. Hi friends, my name is Vanessa Alzate, the founder and CEO of Anchor Training. Anchor Training is your custom learning solutions partner that develops training that actually engages your employees, and it's training that they actually want to take. And so I have thought long and hard of what actually engages learners and employees. And when we really get down to it, it's not some trend, there's no magic pill for it, right? And I think we all are looking for that magic bullet, that one thing that is going to get everybody engaged and is going to turn the course on engagement in your training and in your learning. And frankly, that magic bullet doesn't exist. So that's why at Anchor Training, we created these 3 key pillars. We were looking at what is it that we can actually measure by to make sure that we're creating training that is actually engaging and that is training that is going to be able to be retainable and something that is going to help provide return on investment for the business. And here is where we landed. So, Pillar 1, value team. Pillar 2, activate. Pillar 3, collaborate. And it seems really simple, but honestly, these 3 things, once put together, you have the recipe to create training that is engaging, retainable, and provides a return for your business. And no matter what type of training, what type of learning solution we are talking about, these key pillars apply every single time. Now let's walk through these 3 key pillars one by one. So first we have value team. And this is a mix of value and entertainment. But I'm also going to throw in another fun word in there for you. Edutainment. Educating while entertaining. And in this pillar, this is where we really encompass the true core of the content and how we are actually delivering it, right? So first we need to ask ourselves, is the content valuable? Right? And that is something every time you're looking at every piece of content and every single sentence, every single activity, what is the value we are providing by including that activity, by including this sentence, by including this scenario? Because everything has to have value. The other big piece of valuetainment is the fact that you want to create content that showcases to the learner what the value is for them. That WIFM, what's in it for me, that is the key. What every single adult learner has to know going into training and really truly understand and believe. And you can't assume someone understands the WIFM. You have to tell them the WIFM, honestly. And you can be creative of how you do it, right? You don't have to say, this is what's in it for you. You can be very creative in how you do that, but you have to share the WIFM and you have to hook them in the very, very beginning of that. Ensuring that you're showcasing what the value is of that content and how it's going to help them is also key. But let's get back to edutainment. This is like such a fun piece of the pillar. So edutainment is the idea of educating while entertaining. And it's not always with a song and a dance and a TikTok video. It's really just the idea of creating content that includes stories, including storytelling, right? Including scenarios. How are you able to incorporate things like gamification as appropriate for the content and for the audience? And really knowing your learners enough to know what will be entertaining for them and that is appropriate for the content and the culture and the environment in which you're in. If you're in an environment that isn't always having like fun and games and this and that and more of kind of like buttoned up type of culture, a full-on gamification module with, you know, all these bells and whistles for all those things probably is going to feel a little bit out of place. Doesn't mean you can't get there, and we can help you get there. But you really want to think about what is best for the learner. And look, training isn't always so serious. Yes, there are serious topics, but you do have the ability to include humor and really think about how can you inject a little bit of humor, inject a little bit of personality, and even just change the way that you are scripting your content to be a little bit more personable, right? Instead of thinking like we're talking at you, we're talking with you. We're having a conversation. That is the key difference in getting to people to actually engage and actually be more interested in the content. Think about YouTube videos, right? A lot of people like a lot of my videos because they feel like I'm speaking to them, right? And it's because I really know my audience, I really know my learners, and I really think about whenever I'm scripting something, scripting it like as if I'm having a conversation with a friend and explaining to them learning and development. So think about those kinds of things when you're creating content, and you can really create content that speaks to your learners and to your audience as opposed to just reading bullets on the slide. Here's an example of valuetainment at its finest. A couple weeks ago, I had to take cybersecurity training for a customer of ours. And I sat there and I watched. And spoiler, here, this big disclaimer, we did not develop it, okay? And it was bullets on the screen. It was walking through phishing scams and things like that. You know, making sure you change your password and protecting it and all of that. So bullets on the screen, they included like a screenshot of an Outlook message in which you had to, you know, find the buttons to help with phishing or something like that. At first pass, it looks a little bit more engaging because it includes that screenshot, and you know, you can actually, you know, it's like it's a real email that you would see. And that's all fine, but cybersecurity, you have an opportunity to really change the way that compliance training is done using valuetainment, right? So looking at the content that I took, I really thought, how much of this did I actually need, right? So I know that some of it is required, right? But how much of it was honestly extraneous that I didn't need to know all of this about? And if we really want to do cybersecurity properly, we'll talk a little bit more in the next couple of pillars. There are some other things that I probably would have included in the entire learning plan to check that box, that people are actually changing their behavior and not clicking on phishing emails. I sat there and I was like, you know, wouldn't it be fun to see a cybersecurity training that pretended like someone was a hacker, or, you know, and they're, you know, you have like a story of a hacker over in, I don't know, the middle of Antarctica, and they're there and dressed in all black, and they're typing away, and they're gonna send some phishing emails out there, you know? You don't see the person, you have like that funny voice, robotic voiceover. They send an email to your company, and then that launches into that need for cybersecurity. You can include all of the content, right? And all of the knowledge that you need to impart through a story. I would have stopped to honestly watch that over what I actually didn't really pay attention to, if I'm totally honest. I was working on emails and I just kept clicking next because that was most of the interactivity, was waiting until the end of the slide to click next. And then passing the quiz at the end that I had to keep going until I finally got 100, but I digress. The rethinking of how you're delivering the content, right? And just reframing it, you have an opportunity to create something that's a little bit different. You don't always have to do things the way it's always been done. So utilizing the valuetainment pillar, really, how are you providing value? How are you educating, right? And making sure that education is valuable. And then how are you infusing entertainment? And look, it doesn't always have to be a big story. There are ways to entertain that make sense, right? And that work for your audience. And sometimes, honestly, it's just the stories that you tell, the scenarios that you share, and how you write in the language. So our next pillar is activate. And so activate is all about how are we activating our brain in order to be able to recall what it is that we're learning, right? So what are the practices that we're including? Are we doing role plays? Are we having opportunities to check in 30, 60, 90 days, 6 months, a year from now on the content that we're learning and seeing where we might need to refresh on? Are we having a check-in with our manager to really, have a conversation about how we're doing with, what it is that we learned, right? So let's say, it's a frontline manager that wants to move into supervision, right? And they want to, create, they have a mentoring program. Well, if they're taking content, right, that is, helping them to get into a supervisory role, they should be doing some sort of role play to help activate on the content that they're learning, right, that they're being told. And then giving opportunities to practice some of those skills and then getting feedback from a mentor to help them get better. When we're talking about how do you activate and how are you creating those opportunities for repetition, those are the things we're talking about, right? We're talking about software training. Is there a sandbox that we can let learners play in? Is there a place that they can go to actually, practice a skill? Can we, in the e-learning module, give them real life scenarios that they're gonna face every single day in order to practice in the module in a safe space before they actually get to the system and maybe possibly junk up the system with bad data. Activation can also be as simple but powerful as integrating reflection. So are there opportunities to allow learners to really think and absorb what they've taken in and really reflect and create opportunities to give themselves an action plan, right? Like, I've learned this skill and this is where I want to be in 30, 60, 90 days, and this is how I'm going to get there. And then you have opportunities to check in on that. Again, activation, how are you activating the brain to help influence behavior change? And then the last pillar, one of my favorites, although I know a lot of people thought that valuetainment was gonna be my favorite, but I actually love the idea of collaborating and a community. You heard a little bit of me kind of dripping it in during the activation, the activate pillar, but I love the idea of integrating community. And when I really sit back and I think, like, in life, how do I learn, right? Like, when I became a new mom, I went out to, mom groups and my friends, and I was crowdsourcing ideas, crowdsourcing recommendations. Like, I Google, how do you do this? What is the best for this? Or, whatever the case may be. It's really about being able to be in community with others and learn from their experiences, right? And be able to share my experience with them is another way I'm able to continue that learning. If your training plans do not include some sort of component of a learning community or some sort of mentor program or some sort of group program, you're really missing an opportunity to, one, create community amongst your people and really help to create engagement, which we need, right? Today in this world where we're hybrid and remote, we don't inherently have some of those same relationships that we necessarily did when we're all going to the office together, right? How are you creating that community? And how are you creating that place for people to go when they have questions? Because if they have that place to go on the fly to ask those questions, they're not going to go bug their manager every single time, and their manager can actually get their stuff done. Make sure and every time you're creating some sort of learning content or some sort of learning plan, you're creating a place for collaboration. And so if you want to learn more about how to actually do this, make sure you're following Anchored Training on LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, and also you are linked into our newsletter, because we are going to be sharing throughout the month how to actually utilize these pillars in all different types of scenarios, and you're not going to want to miss out. So make sure you're at least subscribed to our email list, because everything will filter through there. But obviously, I love TikTok, so make sure you're following us at TikTok at Anchored_training. If you want to learn more about how you can create training using the Anchored Training pillars of Valuetain, Activate, and Collaborate, click the link down below to our website and schedule a free, completely free discovery call. We're gonna meet, we're gonna hang out, we're gonna talk, and I'm gonna learn more about your organization and give you probably 1,000 million ideas of ways that you can integrate these pillars into your learning plans. Friends, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.